Welcome to 1 Million Cups. We are glad to see you here. Who's here for the first time? Wow. Thank you for coming out. I'd like to welcome the Kaufman Scholars summer interns. Raise your hand. Welcome. Great to have you. That's the end of the exercise for today. I saw you guys do that 2 times, so take the rest of the day off. 1 Million Cups is an educational program every week here at the Kauffman Foundation, and we bring 2 entrepreneurs to share their story and their entrepreneurial journey. We do a 6-minute presentation, and then we do Q&A with you. So while you're listening to the presentation, we've got a place for some notes on the announcement sheet if you think of something, you want to jot it down. After the presentation's over, we'll run around with the mics, so if you just raise your hand, we'll acknowledge you and come find you when it's your turn to ask a question. My name is Brian Azorski. This is Melissa Roberts, and over here on your left is Jason Kerrigan. We're your volunteer organizers, and we're happy to be helping out. So we'll get things kicked off with Tricia Steffes from Bellezze Alte, and Tricia, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you for coming out this morning. We are excited to share with you our story. Again, my name is Tricia Steffes, and I'm the founder of Bellezze Alte. And this is Kelsey O'Brien, our designer. Bellezze Alte is a clothing line tailored to tall women. We also offer a variety of footwear and apparel to tall women as well. I've always struggled with finding clothing and footwear that accommodated my height since I was about 15. Oftentimes wearing pants that we often refer to as high waters. These days they're referred to as crop pants, and I'm pretty sure I started that trend when I was a teenager. It was just through the struggles that eventually led me to this journey. So let's fast forward a few years. In December of 2010, I took a trip to New York City, and I was certain that being in the shopping capital of the United States, that I was going to walk away with an outfit that accommodated my height. And after trekking 69 city blocks in heels, After trekking 69 city blocks in heels, I came to the sad realization that I was not going to be walking away with a pair of pants that fit my long legs or a pair of shoes that fit. And so it was in the middle of 57th Street that Bellezze Alte was born. So we currently offer an online boutique where that's where we initially started our business model. With our online boutique, we reached out to suppliers and attended multiple trade shows to try to bring on inventory that we could then basically create a one-stop shop for tall women's clothing. In my pursuit through the trade shows and building relationships with suppliers, it became obvious to me that the deficiency that existed in the market was beyond the consumer market. It stemmed much deeper. And so I started toying with the idea of creating an actual clothing line. I realized that if I was going to meet the need that tall women needed met, that I had to go beyond the online boutique. At the time, we lived in Atlanta, and through a network of people, I had an opportunity to meet one-on-one with Damon John, the creator of FUBU and Shark on Shark Tank. Through our time over lunch, he gave me a little insight on his struggles with creating a clothing line, what he would have done different, some hurdles to be prepared for. And after that time with him, it just gave me the confidence that I needed, and I was certain at that time that this was the path that I was going to take. So our clothing line is the Madeline Lebrano collection. I have family on the island of Malta. My family name is Lebrano. So not only did I want to tie in my Italian heritage in the name, which is translated Tall Beauties in Italian, I wanted to also just honor my late aunt, who also stood right under 6 foot tall through the clothing line. Our target market include women 19 to 45, standing 5'8" to 6'4" tall. Currently in the United States, that is about 8 million women. Worldwide, 173 million. We obviously cannot penetrate that market of 173 million, but we will do everything in our power to reach as many of those tall women that we can. The population of tall women is growing as a result of the proactive attitudes about nutritional health. So we expect to continue to gain new customers every day. Our designer, as I said, is Kelsey O'Brien. She attended the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles. I honestly couldn't even remotely manage that aspect of the business without Kelsey. She's brought so much to the plate, and she and I just work together very well. We currently have our denim produced in Los Angeles, our activewear produced in North Carolina, and we are beginning conversations with a New York manufacturer for maxi dresses. We will continue to expand our line. We wanted to start off with basically the primary needs that tall women need, which include pants, long maxi dresses. I can honestly say it wasn't until a year ago that I owned a pair of activewear pants that fit my length, and I've never owned a maxi dress. So that's one thing that we are gonna work on next. One of our manufacturing resources is Maker's Row. It is the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced in this business because it connects you with manufacturers, sample makers, pattern makers, and we really definitely utilize that component. Our current distribution channels in regards to the clothing line include direct online sales. We will begin working through trade shows, penetrating different retailers throughout the country, and we will focus on pop-up stores, which is certainly a component of the business that will help us with growth. Our current primary needs are distribution and marketing and lots of cases of Italian wine to keep us going. We've certainly grown organically, as some would say. I think it's a glorified term of I lose a lot of sleep as a result of a shortage of capital, but it's definitely taught me so much, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. So we appreciate you coming out and certainly open it up to questions.
Thank you. Questions? I'll ask the first question. So you've been online, you've got inventory currently. You're shipping from Kansas City?
We are. So we were utilizing Amazon's fulfillment center, which was a train wreck. So we started shipping out of the house, and we just are in the process of transferring our product to the Fulfillment Plus with Davey Campbell up in North Kansas City. So, yeah.
Great. We've got a question here in the center.
How are you doing? My name is Shamika, and my question was, how inexpensive are your jeans? Like, I understand that, like, you can order them offline, but does that entitle, like, shipping and handling? Like, what's the expense of the jeans? Because I am 5'8".
Sure. Currently, our jeans are offered online between 89 and 109. That's what we currently sell through a current supplier. However, our jeans that are going to be coming out of production out of LA, we're going to definitely keep their price point between $79 and $99. It is more expensive to produce the longer lengths. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be as expensive, but it is definitely more expensive, so our price point is pushed up a little bit more. But we try to definitely stay competitive with some of our competitors and other companies out there that do sell different jeans. So.
Question to your right.
So what are some of the ways you guys are tackling your capital needs?
Well, again, just organically, using as much personal funds as possible. That is how we've grown. We are in the process of throwing out a Kickstarter campaign. In fact, I was really hoping to have it done today, but we are finalizing the video because I know that's an important aspect of Kickstarter. But that is one component. And then I am in the process of seeking other avenues to help with that because, as many of you know, manufacturing is very expensive.
How tall are you, please?
I stand right at 6 foot. I am sporting some heels, so I'm about 6'2" today. Yeah.
Question here in the middle.
With a large part of your target audience being international, what considerations are there with that, and are you equally focused on domestic versus international?
You know, we primarily are keeping our manufacturing domestic as a result of the minimums. Getting the minimums, we have ventured to offshore in regards to researching different manufacturers. The minimums are just atrocious at this point in our business. So domestic manufacturers certainly accommodate the lower minimums. In regards to, we eventually want to expand internationally with storefronts. That is down the road. Pop-up stores will focus internationally because there is a larger population of tall women internationally than there are domestically. So,
Oh, question from the,
Yep, question from the Twitter feed. There's a group watching in Fort Worth, and they send in a question, as they say it, from Funky Town. I don't know.
well,
It must be a thing.
oh.
So they ask, why is your domain name different from the name of your company? Does that reflect brand iteration?
Sure. I was expecting that. You know, when I branded, again, I wanted to tie into my Italian heritage. I didn't, quite frankly, tall couture and long tall Sally, yes, those portray tall women. But I feel like, especially in the fashion industry, you can brand however you want. And although we did create a different domain name for marketing purposes and for the ability to, for people to locate us a little bit better, that is ultimately why we created the two separate. So initially, our website was Tall Collections by Bellezze Alte, but we decided just to narrow it down to Bellezze Alte.
question here in the back.
Other than bring in some Italian wine, what was the first thing you would do if you had an infusion of cash, an investor came in and brought in a bunch of cash? What would you do with that?
Well, we would certainly focus definitely on some marketing. Driving traffic to the site is huge. Getting out there in regards to some PR. But most importantly is we'll expand our inventory online, which has been an issue because we don't have a brick and mortar to obtain inventory. That's one that we'll focus on, and then just manufacturing. I mean, manufacturing, it's just very costly, and that's the other aspect that we will, and then bringing on employees to help grow the business.
Question up front.
He's working hard up here. Okay, so I'm recalling my college statistics class with the average bell curve. And so obviously industry is going towards the average. And you are working on the part of really tall women. And I'm sure there may be a market for really short women as well.
Correct.
Have you thought about that at all? Or is
Oh,
that...
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I get swarmed by the smaller petite women, like, when are you going to help us? And once we get a grasp on the tall women's clothing and really meeting that niche in the market, then, yeah, we'd be happy to venture into accommodating shorter women as well.
Okay, I also have another question then. Okay. Forgive my ignorance. Have you seen, I've heard this kind of through the media and everything, that women's sizes have been changing? Like what used to be a 1 or a 2 or what used to be a certain length is no longer that. Is that happening, and what kind of issue does that, I don't know,
Yeah, I mean,
create in the industry?
I think clothing to women is much more difficult than just accommodating length, especially women's bodies are just different. They change. So yeah, I mean, it is certainly something to overcome. We really focused hard on nailing down the exact sizes. So basically, there are companies out there that have researched the specific sizes of a size 10 woman that has 37-inch inseam. We have obtained those. From there, we do our best to produce based upon those sizes, and then if we need to tweak and make changes, then we'll do that. So.
I have a question for you. You mentioned one of your sources for manufacturing is Maker's Row.
Yes.
I'm somewhat familiar with that
Yeah.
website. Could you tell us about how that worked for you and what's happening there?
Absolutely. I think locating proper supply manufacturers is a challenge. I mean, there's so many out there. The research is endless. You can only obtain so many resources. Maker's Row brings all the resources together. The beauty of it is they each have their own page. They're rated. There's reviews, so you can really start to cut back on the time that's required in research by reading reviews, reaching out to people that currently utilize their services. They give, in-depth details. They show images of their current projects. It's still a project of narrowing down from there, but it just really cuts out the unnecessary time of that research. Narrows down our options significantly. So, and it does focus on, has a huge focus on domestic manufacturers as well.
So you found a denim manufacturer in Los Angeles, is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
And how many different sizes do you have to carry in denim for your website?
Sure. We currently offer 37-inch inseams up to 39-inch inseams. We have sizes from 2 to 14, and then through our own production, we will venture into a little bit larger sizes, 16, 18. But we will maintain 37-inch inseams, and we will bring on 38, 39-inch inseams as well.
Okay. Question in the middle.
Can you just clarify in response to the question up there in front as far as the fact that you're buying the sizes that are out there? How are you differentiating yourself then for a tall woman if you're really working off the same size 10 that's out there in this realm?
Yeah, sure. Well, again, going back to the deficiency, there really is a lack of styles out there. So we're differentiating with bringing in a little bit more. The inseams, yeah, for sure. Definitely longer inseams. But, we don't want to just provide the basic jean. We want to bring in a little bit extra fashion to it. We want to bring in different stitching and taking that to maxi dresses, just creating different styles. That's one thing that Kelsey does so well is with her knowledge, she brings in some really fantastic ideas that are not currently in the market. So not only are we going to meet the needs of tall women, we are going to bring them beyond the ordinary that's already out there in stores. And so we're going to go a little bit beyond reinventing the wheel and create new, fun, classy, sophisticated, and sexy styles for tall women.
Trisha, we have a question over here to your left.
Hi, actually, 2 questions.
Uh-huh.
One, what is a maxi dress? I don't think many of the guys know. And then 2, how are your sales to date?
Sure. Maxi dresses basically run the length of the floor. If I put a maxi dress on, it comes basically up to my shin. But yeah, they are supposed to run the length of the floor. Just kind of fun, whimsy, summery dresses. Sales currently, our current sales are only based upon our online sales through our online boutique. We are about to roll inventory out of production, so we expect that to change significantly. Our sales continue to increase. They're certainly lower than what I would like for them to be. A lot of that's a result of the lack of inventory that just exists in the market. I believe if we had more options available in our online boutique, that we would see an increase in sales. Now, with that said, I'm really putting a push on some PR marketing here, not only locally in the Kansas City area, but I have a huge network of people in Atlanta that's helping me as well. So we're really putting a push on growing traffic to our site to increase sales. So,
Got a question to your right.
You mentioned that right now with your marketing efforts, most of it comes organically. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got it started without having the budget to push into PR and, maybe pay-per-click and all of that type of advertising?
yeah, sure. I mean, we've been blessed abundantly. I've got to start there. You know, starting out, when we started the business, my husband and I went through a relocation to Atlanta. We adopted our youngest child. A lot of expense that basically took away from some of the capital that we could have thrown into the business. So we started very minimum. And we've just been blessed. I mean, doors have opened financially for the business. We've really put a push on sales, which have been nice to grow. We've utilized our sales to grow more inventory, and it's just kept flowing, not at the pace we'd like for it to, of course, but I believe that just makes you a little bit more humble and helps you make a little bit better decisions. But yeah, it's just came as needed, and I can't really explain it. Maybe a little supernatural, maybe just through some hard work. So,
Trisha, we got a question here in the center.
Hello. With us being taller, our shoe size is bigger, so what shoe sizes are you more currently?
I'm glad you asked. We offer sizes 8 to 15, and we work with a really great supplier that basically, if there's not a style that we offer, we can obtain it. So yeah, we definitely target the larger shoe sizes.
Another question in the center.
Welcome, great presentation. I want you to talk about how you drive people to your pop-ups, and I see that referrals and word of mouth is a great advertiser, and I also see your target market as being like the WNBA or
Yes.
collegiate sports.
I couldn't agree more.
So how can we help you get there?
Thank you. Yeah, no, actually one of my major pushes is going to be specifically college athletics currently. That's going to be a major push. I mean, basically, we have to build our social media presence significantly in order to help with the pop-up stores, in order to grow more. So we've really began a huge push on just some social media presence, really driving traffic. We've started doing some search engine optimization, keywords. And you know what? It's just a matter of every time I see a tall woman on the streets, I'm handing out business cards. I'm interrupting them at movie theaters. I'm interrupting them at restaurants. And, you know, just, I know the struggles that you have, and I can help you with this. And although we're growing, we're going to continue to grow, and we are going to help meet that need. So utilize it as much as possible.
We have a question over to your left.
I know that a lot of clothing companies have issues with demand forecasting and picking the right levels of inventory to keep in stock.
Yes.
How have y'all dealt with these issues, and what are the inventory levels that you choose to be stocked, and how do you make those decisions?
Well, we definitely keep inventory low for that reason. I mean, we want to learn this market. We don't want to be stuck with a ton of inventory. So one thing we do is we keep our inventory low. If we have a high demand, then we go out and we purchase more. And you know, we're just very open and transparent with our customers. If there's something you want, we don't have, we're going to obtain it. And if there's something that we had in stock that we don't, we will get it. But yeah, we do that intentionally. So our SKUs are low, and it's just part of our business model. We want to make sure that we're growing properly. We're not growing too fast. And I've known too many companies that brought on a huge onslaught of inventory, and then they're stuck with it. And it's just inventory in hand that they can't sell, and they sell consignment, and they get pennies on the dollar. So did I answer all of that? Okay.
Question in the center.
So I know this might not be your long-term strategy, but I've seen a lot of growth come in these businesses, maybe having like a representative. Sometimes they're structured as multi-level marketing, but that's how they get them struck. You have a representative, they have friends that are tall, they all have the same problem. Have you thought about growing it through that way?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm not opposed to any form of growth. I'm always open to ideas as well. Yeah, we definitely have considered that, are pursuing it a little bit, researching. That's definitely in our future.
We have a question for you right up front.
Hi, right here.
Hey.
So, given the difficulties you described with tall women finding clothing that fits, do you have a lot of repeat customers or any mechanisms to encourage that?
Oh, yes. In fact, with the deficiency that it does exist, we certainly see a lot of repeat. You know, one thing that one struggle that we had recently was we have one of our largest sales is, believe it or not, maternity for tall women, and which is going to be in our future designs. But I currently purchase from a supplier. So we have, I mean, repeat customers, as you all know, is a challenge anyway. I mean, you know, we're constantly striving for that. But when you have one bad run of inventory, which we had recently, we got a run of maternity jeans that just were wrong. They just were bad in production, and it can hinder that. And so we reach out to them, we offer them, you know, incentives, we give them discounts, and we definitely put a push through email marketing, email campaigns, different discounts, and that we utilize to bring back the repeat customers.
Trisha, we got one more question here to your right.
Hello. I was just wondering what kind of advice you were given and what your thought process looked like to go from maybe curating a tall collection to actually designing and manufacturing one.
You know, I have a little bit of a tenacious spirit, so when I get something in my head that I want to accomplish, I'm going to go after it. I definitely focus on utilizing my resources. One of the biggest things for me was when we lived in Elena, I just really went out and met with investors, met with people that I could bring on as mentors, just seeking guidance from them, and you know, building that network, which built resources, which built confidence, and it's a risk. Growing a business, starting a business is a risk, and I was willing to take it. So.
Thank you. Before we let you go, once again, I want to ask you, what can 250, 300 people here help you? What can we do for you as a community?
Thank you for asking. Basically, any resources in regards to distribution, marketing, any resources that you may have that you feel like I could utilize in clothing and manufacturing, and just any resources with helping us grow would be great. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trisha. That was awesome. A couple quick announcements here. If you know a teacher who is probably out of school by now, we're encouraging them to come to 1 Million Cups. We'd love to get teachers involved in 1 Million Cups in some way. We're not exactly sure what that'll look like, but we're always looking for input on how we can make 1 Million Cups better and how we can serve teachers specifically. There's a booth out in the back with some more information out the double doors. So if you know anybody or if you are a teacher, please stop by that booth and get some information. We'd love to learn how to serve the teacher community. We have an announcement from Enrique with Project Musica.
Yeah, just real quickly with this, as if you guys are going to stick around in the room, the Arts KC Fund is having a press conference about Arts KC Week, and that's what Enrique is here to talk about.
So this is my day job. And so in a lot of ways, I'm a little bit at a loss. Like, what am I doing at 1 Million Cups? I vaguely know what it is. I vaguely know what it means to be an entrepreneur. But my friend Kate at Arts KC invited me. She's like, look, for Arts KC Week, we would like to have somebody in the arts community present at 1 Million Cups. And I said yes. And then she told me that it was at 9 in the morning, and I had already said yes. So I'm here. And I play in a band called Making Movies, and it's a project that I started with me and my brother, and this is long before the project began. And we started it as a fusion of the music from where we come from. We were born in Santiago, Panama, which is in Central America, very Caribbean culture, mixed with experimental rock, psychedelic rock stuff. And as the project really got underway, we realized through traveling, and we met a lot of relationships, that it is never too early to give back. And we were at a starving artist. There was nothing going for the band. And I started volunteering at the Mattie Rhodes Center. And it's a nonprofit here in Kansas City. And they have a site in the Northeast, which this video shows some of the neighborhood in the Northeast. And if you haven't driven through there in a while, the neighborhood leaves a lot to be desired. It's a lot of underserved families, and the community is fairly underserved. And as I went there and I showed up, I thought I was going to give guitar lessons. But I realized that the kids, the idea of a guitar lesson is foreign, is a foreign language to them. And what really ended up happening is a weird mentorship through music. And there was a young woman there, she was about 12 years old, who had already been through trauma that I luckily will hopefully never have to deal with in my life. And she would ask me to play a song every time I came. It was a song I had written in Spanish, and she said, play that song again. And the song, to be honest, wasn't very good at that time, but she said it calmed her down and she really liked it. And that made me realize that we have a responsibility as a band to share our music with that community and to be a voice for them. And through that process, I also realized that there's an opportunity to really give back to these kids and to expose them to things they're not even aware of. I remember there was a kid at the camp, or not even at the camp, there's a kid at Mattie Rhodes Center that he would come in and he had to do an essay about what he wants to do for a living when he grows up and his dream job. And the teacher said, you can't put astronaut and you can't put professional athlete, which I understand the teacher's logic. She didn't want 25 papers about I want to be LeBron James as my dream job. And when he asked me, I said, well, what do you want your dream job to be? He said, I want to be a rap producer. I said, okay, well, maybe don't put that, put recording engineer or music engineer. And he's like, I don't think I can do that either. Why can't you write the essay about that? She's like, I don't think she'll believe me. Believe you what? I don't think she'll believe me that's a real job. Like, well, do you believe me? That's a real job. I have tons of friends who do that in town, make modest livings. I have friends who do it in other cities, and to some great success, to some not so great success, but you can make a living. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I believe you that's a real job. And that's what struck me, that we have an opportunity to expose not only the ability to play a musical instrument, but to expose possibilities for career choices, for life choices for these kids. So the first thing that we did, I'll pause this here. So the first thing that we did was we just said, well, let's just do a 1-week music camp. And we got our friends together, everybody volunteered their time, Mattie Rhodes lent us the space, and we invited kids in the community, and they came. And that camp planted the seeds that opened up the doors for us to realize that the need is far greater than we even imagined. So from that camp, we're starting this in June. We'll be having our 3rd annual music camp. And it also expanded into 2 sites. We now have a program at the Guadalupe Center that happens once a week. It'll be a 12-week program in the summer, and there was a spring program, and then we have 2 running in the fall as well. Because the more that we delved into this community and said, hey, we're here, we'll provide music lessons at a cost that, a normal music camp or soccer camp in the suburbs would cost you $300. And we're going into this neighborhood and we're saying, we're going to host a music camp, and we're going to bring Mark Lowry, the best jazz pianist, to present for you, and Susan Tilbury, our dear friend who has sang opera at the Met Center. We're going to bring these folks in to teach music, and it's going to be $20, and it'll pay for your food. So we're going to feed the kids, and we found money, and thankfully through private donors, we found the money to be able to pull this off. And this last year, we were able to take them to a recording studio, which I'll show some clips of that later, and we were able to provide a really nice music camp, and now provide these lesson programs for these kids. And as through that time period, our band has grown in stature. And here's a clip of us talking on CNN about the group on CNN Español. And we had the opportunity to record an album with multiple Grammy winner Steve Berlin of the band Los Lobos. And that album, we just signed a record deal for it. And so these things have opened up for us. And as these things open up, we realize the importance to give back more. Like, we still don't have a ton of resources. We have a small business that we run as a band, and we travel the world playing it. But the opportunity is to give back and to really expose these kids and hopefully create a landscape in the inner city where music seems like a possibility. And that became a dream for us, and something that we hope to instill. And I think that and here's some clips from the 2013 camp.
My house is in shambles, but it beats being homeless. It's hot in the summertime, but in no cold, the heat's hopeless. The bills are coming in, and I'm looking so nervous. face, 'cause any day now they could disconnect my service. I need some dollars, some cake, how much more can I take? And if I cried out now, I could fill a whole lake. God's leveling the score just by keeping me poor. 'Cause if I had stacks of dollars, best believe I would soar, or trying to make it to heaven's door, but gotta pay a.
And the music that you were hearing it was recorded at the camp. We went to a recording studio for a 2-hour block, like a walkthrough, and I let the older kids have a chance to record something. And we met this extremely talented 13-year-old girl who wrote that song and sang it. That was one take. She had 5 minutes to record a song, and we hit record, and that was her singing. It's a beautiful and powerful piece, and that made us realize that we can really nourish talent here in this community, and we have this opportunity to expose it. And I think that as far as being a part of the arts community here, that's our dream. Our dream is to really cultivate this environment where these kids realize that music can be a life thread for them. It can be just a thing that pulls them together, that they do for their family. It can be this exciting, hobby that enriches their life, enriches their mind. And for some, it can be a career choice and a career path, and that it's not impossible. That there's not Jay-Z and my dad who plays accordion in the basement, and that there's something in between that, that you can make a living. And it sounds ridiculous to us because we're aware of that information. But for these kids, that's like you're telling them, that you can live in Mars. Like, they're just like, what? You can really make a living playing music? So that's been something that's been a real blessing for us to be a part of. And as a part of Arts KC Week, we have an event this Sunday that's a fundraiser that all the funds will go to contribute to the Musica Camp that's run by the Mattie Rhodes Center. We're hosting it at the Alamo Draft House this Sunday. And it's at noon, and you get to watch a documentary, which is a beautiful documentary. Inocente, it won an Academy Award. And then we'll be performing some music along with the kids. So if you guys are free this Sunday, come watch a film and know that you're giving back to a good cause. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to do this and expose what we've been doing. And I think as the other presenters, they talk about the gaps that you need. And the one thing that I thought of as a gap, because really we're really pleased that we're already doing what we wanted to do. We wanted to participate. And we're participating, and it's been going great. But the one thing we realized is as we open this door, the need is far greater than the 4 of us in our band can handle. And so the gap would be if there's people here who can connect us to resources to build an infrastructure, then maybe we wouldn't be impacting 40 kids at a music camp, but we could be impacting 400 if we had a structure set up to do so. So that's really, if there's a need, if there's something that pops into your head, that would be what I would be asking for. But thanks, my name's Enrique. I'm glad to have this opportunity.
Thanks, Enrique. I appreciate it. As music and arts funding is getting cut from schools, it's really exciting to hear people who are trying to solve the problem of how do we create an economically sustainable model for promoting arts and communities. So I think that's really awesome what Enrique is doing. June 1st at the Alamo Draft House. Check it out if you're able to go. We have 2 events that are coming up that we'd like to let you know. 1 Week KC is coming up June 9th through 15th. You can go to oneweekkc.com. There's a lot of awesome events and resources that are available. Most of them are free, and they're extremely valuable. Most of them you also need to register for. So make sure you go to oneweekkc.com and check them out. And I'm sure there's something there that could serve you. The other one is City Camp KC. You can go to citycampkc.org. It is Saturday, May 31st at the Kauffman Foundation from 9 to 5. Its attendance is limited and last year sold out, so make sure you reserve your space now for that. That's May 31st. With that, I get to make my last introduction as a 1 Million Cups organizer. I took a position down in Oklahoma City, so I'm moving down there this Sunday. And yeah, really exciting position as an entrepreneur at a major corporation. Corporation that's struggled with innovation for a long time, so they've asked a startup guy to come down and create an innovation lab within their company to help them get some technology products out the door. So really exciting for me, but I'm really sad to leave this community and really sad to, I'll miss you guys. Yeah. So I get to introduce my friend, Chris Gorney, and he's gonna tell us about the last couple years with Second Life Studios. Welcome, Chris.
Okay, well, I'm Chris Gorney. I'm with Second Life Studios. I'm going to start by telling you guys a story, one of my favorite stories. Our company makes furniture. That's how we began. We began as a carpentry business, just a couple of grunts, dirty, sawdust-covered men in a garage. A little more than 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago rather, at the beginning of October of 2012, we got the opportunity to build a 14-person table out of reclaimed oak from here in Missouri. We tore down a barn, we pulled the nails out by hand, we had the climbing harnesses and the hard hats, and probably not quite enough liability insurance, but we pulled down the wood, we got it all ready, we built this table, we sent it off to New Jersey in early October of 2012. Can anyone remember what hit New Jersey in 2012? Hurricane Sandy. So this table arrived at a family of five's home 3 days before Hurricane Sandy hit. Now apparently their house was a little bit higher ground than their neighbors, so their house became a place of refuge. All of their neighbors came over to their house to weather the storm, and that table had 14 people at it for 5 days. We got photos and the story about a week after the hurricane hit, and we had a moment to stop in our business and go, hey, this is why we do what we do. We take old things, we make them new, we give them purpose, and we make spaces for people, to get to know other people, and to build community. It's much more than just carpentry. It was about 2 years ago. Second Life Studios was born out of 3 different companies, 3 different small shops, entrepreneurs trying to get a business going, metal shop, carpentry businesses, and concrete. And after about 6 months of playing and having very strong partnerships with each other, we decided we could do a lot more good for the city, accomplish our mission, which is right here. We exist to inspire an authentic lifestyle through challenging the prefabricated status quo. We decided we could do that better as a whole. So we decided to become the big boy. We incorporated, dissolved our old companies, and become one group with 3 partners, now 14 employees in the past 2 years. We accomplished this mission by cultivating, designing, and building human-scaled spaces with reclaimed materials. That's our way of saying we take really old stuff and make really new things for people who care about it. We have a tagline in our company called Reclaiming Nouns. We think that business has a role to reclaim people, places, and things. And that's why we came together. We think that business has a purpose in city change, economically, socially, and physically. We work with our company, and part of our business model is actually to use our capital to do jobs training and to partner with other jobs training programs in the city alone. That way we hope to give people who don't have skills, who maybe have some work impediments, an opportunity to learn a skill, potentially start their own business, and go off on their own. So that's people. Places, we see business as an opportunity to make Kansas City a better place by taking locations and buildings and either reclaiming the materials themselves or actually taking the space and reclaiming the space and making it better, more relevant, more purposeful in the city rather than just wasted space. We want purposeful space, intentional space. And then things, that's kind of the easy one. We take barns. That was where we started. We do a lot of new material construction now. But our bread and butter and the best thing that we love doing is going out on a beautiful spring day and tearing down an old barn somewhere in central Missouri. And we love that because we get to wave Kansas City's flag. We get to say, hey, this southern yellow pine or this oak was planted before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And it was harvested 120 years ago. And then we de-nailed it and we planed it and we joined it and we designed something. So that's what we mean by reclaiming nouns. Now the nuts and bolts, you've got to include some kind of carpentry and construction pun. We're a small company that started just building furniture. And we quickly realized that we had a passion for reclaiming larger things, so spaces. So we introduced a design element. My background is in urban design and urban planning. When I came on to help form the company 2 years, we began calling ourselves a design build studio. Now, we didn't really know what that meant. We're like, well, maybe if we call ourselves this long enough, people will give us work and we'll actually design and build things. So that's what happened. We kind of faked it, and then people came to us, and hopefully none of them are in this room, and they had no idea we didn't know what we were doing. But we've had great opportunities to do some amazing projects where we didn't just build furniture, but we built spaces for people to interact in intentional ways. So it's the opposite of the prefabricated, let me go to a website, pick the furniture that I like how it looks. We actually start and design furniture and pieces and spaces for people to intentionally meet the needs of their area. So one of our favorite blank slides. Shouldn't be a blank slide. Wonderful. Well, they're all blank. Okay, that's what happens when you transition to a PDF. Well, I'll tell you two of our local projects that we got to do. The first one, we just recently opened. It's PT's Coffee in the Crossroads here in Kansas City. So if you've been down, it used to be Crossroads Coffee House. Before that was Coffee Girls. We got to come in, we demoed the space in 1 day and installed everything in 2 days, and we did a 3-day turnaround. We spent that previous time building everything out so that we could just walk it in. Now, the fun part about the project was we actually took the pallets that the coffee was shipped to, took those, planed them, joined them, put them in our commercial spray booth, finished them like high-quality hardwoods, and then built furniture out of them. So that when you sit there, you're actually sitting on the pallet, sitting on the tables, sitting on the materials that brought the coffee you're drinking. The second one we did in town was BRGR downtown. Has anyone been to BRGR down the Power and Light? So we built that out with reclaimed southern yellow pine, which pine nowadays is a very soft wood, but traditionally it was a hardwood when you let it grow long enough. So all of the wood from that barn goes into building this bar and these beautiful tables. So you're not just going into kind of a high-class burger place. You're going to something that its roots are actually just about 10 miles away from where the restaurant is now. And then the last project, I guess a third one, would be Boulevard Brewery. Has anyone been on the Boulevard Brewery tour? Hopefully, if not, you need to raise your hand and you need to go. We got to build 6 400-pound tables out of reclaimed barn beams. We worked with the owner before they did the transition and built these tables that reflected the heritage of Boulevard Brewery. So we sat down with them and said, what kind of table reflects who you guys are or what you believe? So we got to build these large, heavy, heavy tables. And somehow, as the owner, though we have employees, whenever it's time to deliver something or unload a heavy load, it's always the 3 owners. So every time there's something heavy to unload, I always get to be the one who gets to be there. But that's who we are and that's what we do. We're young, 2 years old, and we've transitioned quickly from just a small carpentry business into now a full design build with design CAD capabilities, construction documents, the whole 9 yards, and it's been a really fun process. Questions?
Great. Let's open it up to questions. Thank you.
We've got a question here in the back.
Yeah.
Hi. Great organization, great company. I was curious, are you focused more on the commercial or residential side of furniture building at the moment?
Both. That's a great question. We, as a small company, you take what business matches your mission, matches your vision, and you do it. So we do a lot of wine cellars for residences. We do kitchen remodels. We actually have had the opportunity to do some new residential construction in the last 6 months. Some of the few brand new homes being built in Midtown in the Longfellow neighborhood. So that's been really exciting. And then a ton of commercial work. We love the commercial projects because there's usually a bit larger of a budget, and we get to play a little bit more. If you get a right client who believes what you believe, then you guys usually come together and you can say, well, let's not just build a table, let's build something that is memorable. Worth Instagramming is the idea. Next question.
Chris, I have a quick question over here to your left. Yeah. You guys said you called yourself a design build studio, not knowing what that meant. What were some of the challenges getting your first client to believe that you could actually deliver on design build without having a lot of history? You know, how did you give them confidence that you guys could deliver on what you said you were going to do?
I think part of it was how we presented ourselves. To say we presented ourselves more organized than our age would probably make you assume. We wanted to come together as a unified company with all of our ducks in a row. And then the biggest thing we've actually had, and you would have seen photos, we actually had the opportunity to work with some large clients who kind of gave us some of that street cred. We got to work with Sony Entertainment middle of last year and design, right there actually. We got to design 65 large tables for their headquarters for one of their divisions in New York. And they were built in Kansas City with a Kansas City artist. It was a high-profile job in New York, a high-profile budget, and it was at the time by far the largest project we had done. So we were able to say, well, actually, look at this. You know, we just came back from New York working with Sony. We'd love to sit down and talk about your restaurant. So I think they just kind of assumed we could, because if you work with Sony, well, then absolutely you can work with us. So, awesome. Well, now it's kind of working, maybe.
Can you talk about some of the other kind of iconic projects that you guys worked on?
Yeah, these are some of the photos that we actually would have showed you here. Yeah, we've had an opportunity to do a lot of different ones. One of the more recent one we did that was maybe my favorite, I can answer that question that way, one of my favorite was Underdog Wine in Crestwood. It was a small 700 square foot space with a 3-inch slope from the left to right of the building. It was an 11-foot wide space. From the left to right side, there's a 3-inch slope. And they came in and asked us to design the entire space and fit about 500 or 5,000 bottles in 700 square feet. So we had to design something that made the room feel light using materials that had a story, but also would allow me to sleep at night by holding up 5,000 expensive bottles of wine. So it was a really big challenge, and we ended up doing a mixed medium with steel, some composites, and then some wood as well to meet inside of their budget, as well as make the room feel light and accomplish all their aesthetic goals.
We have a question up here in the
question
front.
here in the center. Sorry.
Go for it, Brian.
Yes, I was curious, when you talk about reclaiming barns or using recycled materials, what is that process? Do you bid for the barn? Does it include, taking it apart? I mean, that could be a large portion of your overall expense and profit.
That's kind of one of our secrets. We have to date not paid for a barn. Luckily, one of my partners, I have two partners, Ryan Henrich and Mitch Trump. Mitch Trump spent most of his college career at his grandfather's barn in his carpentry shop outside of Kansas State. So he is a good old boy, and he relates well to farmers. And I kid you not, he will walk up onto a farm and ask the farmer, hey, can I tear down your barn? Which you would think would meet with some very strange reactions, but we have made a lot of good friends, and often there are situations where the farmers want the square footage of their property. They want it, but they just don't have the time or the capital or the resources to tear down their barns. So they'll often let us take the materials if we demo the barn ourselves. And then whatever percentage yield that's viable product we'll take, and then there's usually a great bonfire at the end. So we'll just, I mean, it's the easiest way out in the middle of nowhere to get rid of product.
We have a question up here in the front.
Don't move to Oklahoma City, Jason. We'll miss you. First of all, thank you so much for doing this work in an era of throwaway and building new. It's really nice to have you in Kansas City, and I'm wondering if you'll please consider coming and talk about reclaiming nouns at City Camp this Saturday, which is here, as Jason mentioned. I've got your ticket if you want to go. But the overall theme is around startups in the city, and it's how can startups in the cities they call home help each other to prosper. And one of the sort of threads in that is, adaptive reuse of old buildings that startups tend to want to inhabit more than, say, an office park. And your work plays a vital role in that, and I really hope that you'll consider it. So,
I'd love to talk afterwards and hear more about it. Well, we think it's really important. My background was in community development before that I got a degree in urban design and urban planning. And so when I graduated from the urban planning school, I had a moment to raise my hand and say, okay, so what city is the city? Who should we follow? And they went, nobody. So I went and got a master's degree in learning what not to do with cities. That's basically what I got. And it made me want to do what we do. It made me want to kind of plant my flag and say, well, hey, Kansas City is our home. What can we do through a business, through a for-profit business? And I think there's a great role for that in our city, through actually reclaiming what we already have. Even if you do use new materials, we can reclaim the spaces, not just the things. People.
We've got another question in the back.
Yeah.
Hi again. I'm just curious, have you heard of Planet Reuse? They are very similar to you, and I was wondering if you guys have partnered or talked about adding a fourth partner to your organization.
We haven't talked to them. I have heard of them, and they're a wonderful organization. It's definitely a great idea. I'll write it down and look at it.
We have a question up here in the front.
Here, yeah. Can you talk a little bit, about your pricing, and a similar question to the last guy is, are you familiar with the group who's kind of around 31st and Cherry, like 816 Bike Collective, like a garage? You guys, I assumed you're lots of synergies there.
We're actually a block away.
You're right by
we're
filling
right
station,
across.
right?
We're right across the street from the filling station. Currently, we just moved down to 27th and Cherry, so that's our neighborhood. We love it. Maker Village is there. 816. I think. What's the name? La Cucaracha Press is right there now too. It's a wonderful, wonderful corner. Pricing structure. That's the great question, isn't it? It depends the situation. We utilize a pro forma system in our business because when we started getting bigger jobs, we realized there was a great degree for mistrust in our industry because we're in the architecture world, we're in the interiors world, and we're in the construction world. And those three worlds, the pricing is just all over the map, whether they charge a percentage based on the overall budget of the project or if it's kind of a project managing or it's an actual straight cost by hourly. So what we did is we developed this pro forma system where we can type in our material costs, an estimated hourly, estimated hours, and we can give within 5 to 10% of the final bill, we can give an estimate. And we stick by it. To this date, I don't think we've deviated more than 4 or 5% in the original bid, just because we think it's a marketable asset for our business to stick by our original invoice and not say at the end of the day, well, hey, here's our bid and we came in 30% over budget, you need to write me a check. And we did that in reaction to how we've been treated in other jobs before and how other construction experience we had. And reclaimed wood is a more expensive medium to use because there's just a lot more labor. So at this point in our business, we still itemize everything by hour, by task. And actually a huge point in the growth of our business has been learning how to do that well as young guys, as a young business, how to like actually quantify our costs and quantify our losses as well.
Chris, we got a quick question to your right.
Okay, my question to you is, can you talk to us about the difference when you go out and compete for some of the jobs that I saw on screen there? You may be competing against firms that are just design houses as opposed to design and execution. So talk to us about the difference that you find in terms of your ability to compete because you have the execution part.
Great question. I think the word's grit. I think where we're different is that it's not just a job for us. We're still small enough that when we talk and we compete for these different jobs, we're very upfront about who we are. We're very clear that we're a relatively small company with potentially less experience and less resources, but our track record shows that we get it done on budget and on time. So that's what we put down on the table. We say, here's our company. Here, there's no tricks. There's no hidden contracts. Here's your timeline. Here's your budget. We will get it done. And so far, we've done that. We haven't missed a big project deadline. We haven't missed a big project budget yet. And because of that, I think people are willing to trust us. And I think there's something, especially in our city, people are willing to give small companies a chance. I mean, that's why one of the reasons this event is so successful here. We've been really blessed and fortunate to partner and work with people who really care about custom-built designs rather than just ordering all their furniture or getting someone from Canada to design their space. That they want it to be local because it's important to them. So we align ourselves with people who believe what we believe about these design processes, and that tends to give us, it either kicks us out of a bid for a project where people wouldn't want that, or it gives us an advantage to where they would choose us over a larger company, a larger firm, because they want to work with someone who shares those beliefs. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
We have a question over here to your left.
I know you guys are busy. I've followed you guys for a long time. I'm buddies with Ryan. And my question is, coming from that 14 people gathered around a table success, how do you define success going forward for yourself? And do you have any benchmarks for where you want to be a year from now or 5 years from now and staying true to where you guys started?
I think one of the benchmarks would be staying true to where we started. We never want to hold profit over people. And that's a huge risk in our business, especially as my role is lead designer and I work with our clients. And so I tend to be at the 40,000 foot view, and sometimes when you're that high, you miss people. So a benchmark for us in a few years would be continuing to say that our employees are more important than what they produce for us, that them as people are more important, that we want to help them get further in their life rather than just help us get further in profits. Business-wise, we would love to have twice as many employees. To us, employees are good. Employees are more people we can employ. It's more money into the local economy. It's more people living locally. There's a whole socioeconomic benefit to hiring local and employing more people. And we might be small, but it's a small difference. And we see that as a great way. And we see that as a social responsibility. So that's a benchmark, I would say, is more employees. And then the last one was we actually have a desire to export Kansas City materials. We want to be, we're coast to coast right now, but we've yet to work international. And we want to work international because we want to continue to say materials and design and labor from this part of the country is something you should want around the world. So that would be probably a 2 or 3 year goal.
Lastly, what can we as a community do to help you out?
That's a great question. If you know any farmers with barns, call them. No, I would say know about us. Know about us and believe that things worth doing are usually difficult. Our logo here, the last slide, is a hammer and chisel because we believe you don't build anything quickly and easily with a hammer and chisel. It's all very difficult and it takes a long time. And so I think to help us, it would be to believe that well-designed spaces with people who care is something that's worth your time and money. And that there's value in giving great thought to the places in which we interact because it sets the stage, it sets those subconscious design cues for interactions and development and change and community. So know about us and believe that these things are worthy. I'd say that's what's helpful.
What's your Instagram handle?
Second Life Studios. I don't have a Twitter. Is that bad in this room? I know. My partners do, and I didn't occur to me till this morning.
We forgive you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming out. Come back next week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. See ya.